few things NFL-wise. The merger between the mothership, NFL Network, and the NFL, 10% stake in ESPN. Now, it's probably going to have to wait until 2026. I'm just looking at some of the details, and these negotiations have lasted for about 4 years. But they finally have figured out how they can do this. The deal is subject to regulatory approval. If approved, it likely won't take effect until at least 2026. As part of the deal, ESPN will get an additional 3 NFL games per season. They will air on NFL Network. Partnership, and you have 3 entities here: NFL Network, the mothership, and NFL getting a 10% ownership stake in ESPN. I think from what I'm looking at, we'll find out a little bit more here later on in the hour, but this might help with distribution around the world, having the partnership with ESPN. I'm just curious about what it means for you, the consumer. Like, what's this costing you? That's really all I care about. Is the red zone going to cost more? Let's bring in Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host. His new book, Big Shield, comes out August 19th. It's about the intersection of gambling, the mob, and pro football. You can pre-order the ebook for just 99 cents on Amazon. What does this deal mean? Let's start with the consumer. Why would they care about this merger?
Well, I don't know that the consumer was at the front of the mind for either of the parties involved in this, frankly. The NFL has had essentially a struggling media property in NFL Network. It's never become what they thought it was going to be. They created Thursday Night Football as a way to prop up NFL Network. It debuted in 2006 as a back half of the season Thursday night package to give NFL Network something that would make cable providers want it. It still never really took off. And they've been trying for years to unload it, Dan. I mean, like 10 years they've been trying to get rid of this, and they've tied it to different things. NBC was in the conversation at one point, and now they get 10% equity in ESPN for these failing properties. And yeah, I don't know that the consumer was the main reason for this. And now the question becomes, how do we make this seamless for the consumer? For example, ESPN did a deal as part of this to continue to televise the draft for the next 5 years. Well, when you turn on NFL Network for the draft, are you going to see Rich Eisen now? Or are you going to see Mike Greenberg? Who's it going to be? And I think it's important for them to keep things normal from the perspective of the consumer, because I think most people are afraid, number one, things are going to change, and number two, we're going to get screwed. I just think that's the natural reaction to this news, that these two behemoths have come together.
One of the first things that came to mind is, what if Fox has a problem with their deal, or the NFL says to Fox, here, take it or leave it. We'll have some, I don't know if there's going to be, the NFL is in bed with ESPN, and what's that mean for the other TV partners?
We will see. And look, you give the league 10% equity in your company, and maybe the value isn't there to support it. But you know what's not going to happen? You're not going to lose Monday Night Football. You're not going to lose your spot in the Super Bowl rotation. You are now a permanent partner of the NFL. At a time when all the tech companies are hovering and the TV deals are up after 2029, technically 2033, but the league has the ability to pull the plug, and obviously it will. ESPN doesn't have to worry about being left out in the cold. And Dan, the other thing this does, and this really needs to be fleshed out by the union, instead of taking money for these properties, taking equity, that may screw the players, because the players don't share equity with the league. The players share money with the league. So you're offloading more games to ESPN, and they're not paying X hundred million for them. They're giving you equity. Under the CBA, that equity may be exclusive to ownership. And until equity turns into money, players don't get a penny. That's something the new interim executive director of the union had better put at the top of his to-do list to figure out, how are we possibly getting screwed by this?
You might be the first person, maybe the only person who pointed this out, but Jerry Jones talking to Micah Parsons without representation in there, is not allowable.
No.
But Jerry wants the conversation to be allowable and that they had a deal back in March. So what is the rule of an owner talking directly to a player about a contract?
You really couldn't make this up. The Jerry Jones, and Chris Sims made this point earlier today on PFT Live, certain owners will invoke any and all rules that help them. Well, that's the rule. Hey, the rules are the rules. Contracts, contracts. CBA says we can do this. But as to the stuff that gets in the way of what we're trying to do, forget about the rules. And it's clear in the CBA, if there is a verbal agreement that is reached between a player and a team, it must be reduced to writing as soon as practical. The idea that they did a handshake deal back in March, and I think, if there was a flow chart, Dan, step one would be, will Micah accept the deal that he supposedly agreed to in March, which surely is far less than whatever he wants now. And if he won't, I think what Jerry's trying to do is get Micah to play for $24 million this year, and they'll kick it all to next year. But you're right. Under the CBA, you can't do this. You can't negotiate directly with the players. The agent is the exclusive representative certified by the union to act as the union in the dealings between player and team. And the NFL hasn't done anything about it. The union hasn't done anything about it. So, hey, if I'm Jerry Jones and they're not going to tell me I can't do it, what the hell? I'll keep doing it.
How's this play out?
I really do think that Jerry wants Micah to either take the deal that they had a handshake on in March or play for $24 million this year and kick it to next year. Because the key is this, Dan. The longer the team can keep the injury risk on the player, the more the team is protected against something happening to the player that would keep him from ever playing again or playing as well as he used to, career ending or career limiting. The risk is on the player, not on us. And for the team that's dealing with a bunch of different players, the more times you can keep that risk on the players, the better off you are over the long haul. And we've seen that. They kicked the can with Dak Prescott. They kick the can until somebody says enough. That's why I still think he should have held out. If he'd have held out, they would eventually have caved like they did for CeeDee Lamb last year, like they did for Ezekiel Elliott in 2019. They're going to try to, I think, if he won't take the deal that he supposedly agreed to in March, they're going to try to kick this to next year. And I know $24 million sounds like a lot of money, but when the market's 41 and Micah should be getting 45, yeah, you don't want to play this year for 24.
Why doesn't somebody say to Jerry Jones, Jerry, you can't negotiate a contract with a player?
Because for whatever reason, nobody is willing to tell Jerry Jones he can't do it. And the union hasn't filed a grievance. It would be very easy to do. If this new interim executive director wants to make a splash, what he could do, what David White could do, immediately file a grievance against the Cowboys and Jerry Jones for dealing directly with players when they should be dealing with the agent. You want to try to balance out the relationship a little bit? Stand up and fight for your players.
Talking to Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host, the show that precedes ours on Peacock. And his next book, Big Shield, comes out August 19th. It's the intersection of gambling, the mob, and pro football. You can pre-order the ebook for just 99 cents on Amazon. Out of nowhere, the NFL comes out with no more smelling salts. Where's this been, or what happened?
What took so long? It's been 16 years since they had their concussion epiphany. The first time I ever became aware of smelling salts, it was in a movie or a TV show where a boxer got knocked senseless and they stuck it under his nose to wake him up. And now they're finally like, oh, it could mask the symptoms of a concussion. Yeah, of course it can. That's why they use them. And how many years have we seen like the images of a guy on the sidelines, just not because he's taken a blow to the head, but just it kind of gets them going. Yeah. Like, it's always been a weird look for the NFL. And now all of a sudden they realize probably not a good idea to supply these. And they haven't banned them. You can bring your own, I assume, bring your own smelling salts, stick them in your sock. And if you need a little kick before the game, so be it. But it's always been a strange thing to me. The huffing of ammonia at a time when they're ultra sensitive to concussions, where the smelling salts are always the thing that they use to wake a guy up who's taken a blow to the head.
Okay, but so they're taking the liability away from the teams. Now it's on you. If you want to use smelling salts, you can. We're not taking any ownership.
We're not supplying them. Now they'd have to negotiate with the union. See, that's the thing. And this gets back to collective bargaining. The league never wants to have to give anything up. because currently the players are allowed to bring their own smelling salts. They're not banned from using them. So they'd have to sit down and give up a little of this, give up a little of that, maybe do a handshake deal with Jerry Jones in the room. And the next thing you know, the players are banned from using them at all. But yes, this is a liability thing, Dan. We can't get sued. We can't get in trouble for supplying these to somebody who has a concussion and they take the hit of it and they go back in and play and they get a second concussion and they have a serious injury as a result of it.
If I'm a Rams fan and I'm listening, watching, concerned about Matthew Stafford, what would you tell the Rams fan today about this situation?
I would say that for now, you should not be concerned. I believe, and I'm told he'll be back on the field later this week. Now, I don't know whether that means he's going to be fully participating in practice, but he'll be working out on the field. He'll have a month to get ready for week 1. And Matthew Stafford, I said this earlier today, if he wrote an autobiography, the chapter on all the injuries that he's had in his career would be the longest chapter in any book that's ever been written. He's had injuries we know about. He's had injuries we don't know about. He just sucks it up and he keeps going. I think they have deliberately given him time to let the back settle down. Anybody that's ever had a back problem knows it operates on its own timetable and it needs a certain period of time to get back to normal. And they wanted to, I believe, let it get to normal and give it even more time before they put him out there because they don't want this to keep coming up throughout the course of the season. Troy Aikman has said, hey, people think I retired because of concussions. I retired because of back problems. And you think of the way that quarterbacks move and the twisting and the torquing, they're just giving him extra time. I think he'll be good to go.
Are the Browns trying to win this year?
I think that they're trying to do, Dan, it's a twist on the plot of Major League. Their fans are upset that they're moving out of downtown Cleveland, right? So if they are really, really bad, the fans won't be as upset that they're moving to suburban Brook Park when they build their new stadium. It really is ridiculous to me. And this is what happens when you prioritize strategizing and analytics over building a football team. You don't draft Shedeur Sanders in round 5 when you've taken Dylan Gabriel in round 3. You don't obviously give up 3 first-round picks plus and a $230 million fully guaranteed contract to Deshaun Watson. It's like every decision point the Browns have in front of them over the past 10 years, they've gone the wrong way. And here's where they are. So, yeah, this is going to be, it just feels like it's going to be a disaster for the Browns. And I feel bad for Browns fans. They deserve so much better than what they've gotten. And it all goes back to ownership. It all starts there. And what they've gotten under Jimmy Haslam has been unacceptable.
What does Deshaun Watson do every day?
Well, he is working his way back, Dan, to full health. And that is where this messy quarterback situation gets even worse. When he shows up with the piece of paper that says, you're good to go, they got a decision to make. They either got to put him on the 53-man roster with however many other quarterbacks they're going to carry into the season, or they have to release him. And Dan, if they release him, they take a $130 million cap charge next year for his contract if they release him right now. So he may be on the roster. We may have a fight under the CBA where the player says, I'm healthy, and the team says, no, you're not. And they have a grievance where the doctors fight it out to prove whether or not Deshaun Watson's healthy. And if he wins, they've either got to put him on the roster or they have to cut him. That's it. And they're not going to cut him because they're not going to take that $131 million cap charge next year.
Does Deshaun Watson want to play football again?
I think look, Dan, I think where the worm may have turned for him because, between the rustiness and the injuries and the off-field issues, I think it really did affect him as a human being. How could it not? All those different things. And look, I'm not excusing it. It's a direct result of his own alleged misbehavior. But when the owner of the team comes out and says in March, man, we really took a swing and a miss on that one, that's kind of a middle finger to Deshaun Watson. So now he's got a purpose. He's got a reason. He's got an Apollo Creed for his Rocky Balboa to try to make this a comeback story. And I'm sure he'd love to stick it to Jimmy Haslam and put the Browns in a position where they've got to activate him and put him back on the roster. I think the guy fully intends to get healthy and come back and try to be the guy that he was that made the Browns give up all that stuff to get him.
Can Justin Tucker play again?
Well, he's going to have to serve the 10-game suspension, but Dan, the reality is this. he dipped last year from a performance standpoint. Now, if he can convince a team that he can show up and kick like he used to, then you get into the question of, do we want to take, and this, look, I hate to be the cynical about it, but this is the way it works. What's the PR hit? What kind of criticism are we going to take if we bring in Justin Tucker? How much better is he going to make us? Are we better off just getting a guy no one knows to be our kicker? That's the analysis a team's going to have to make.